to Primetime Debate. Now, exit polls suggest that there's no stopping the Modi wave as the BJP looks to sweep the assembly polls in Himachal Pradesh and retain the government in Gujarat. So how much can we read into these exit polls? What do the polls of poll say? That's what we're talking about this evening on Primetime Debate. I'm going to be speaking first with Mr. Yogendra Yadav. He's, of course, the founder of the Swaraj Party. We'll also be speaking this evening with Vadakkan, national spokesperson of the Congress. Hilal Ahmed of the CSDS is also joining us. But Mr. Yadav, if I can begin, you have made a prediction yesterday and today, after seeing what the exit polls are saying, you have also talked about a revision of those numbers. What are you reading into the numbers right now? Well, okay, I'll get to Yogendra Yadav in just a bit, but first reaction from you, Mr. Vadakkan. I know you will say that the exit polls are not the final results. We say that too. We believe that that caveat is, of course, there. But it does show that a lot of the new strategies that the Congress has applied in Gujarat may not have worked.
I don't agree with that. Because there are a whole lot of exit polls, and the wisdom generally that's going around is that you agree with the exit poll. The ground reality we have seen in the state of Gujarat is the connectivity we have had established with the people there. There was anger. Now, these emotions are not changed overnight. I'm not going to upgrade or downgrade my assessment on the basis of data available by these pollsters. There's been a huge rural-urban divide, and I asked them a very simple question. I got no answers from anybody. I spoke to all the national channels. The issue is, where is the rural voter going, or where is the urban voter going? My case is that if university elections are a litmus test of the rural-urban divide, I'm sorry, such a divide does not exist. The Gujarati essentially is very candid and clear that if his business does not work, if his children cannot be educated, if the healthcare is not delivered, he's going to ask questions. And he's not going to suffer this whole system. He's angry. And if anger, you think, is being silenced by these exit polls, you see, the basic psyche is that they won't speak. There is a fear psychosis that when you go and ask for opinions...
Mr. Vadakkan, the anger is not silenced by the exit polls. One is not saying that the exit polls is the finality, but there have been seven. There have been 7 exit polls which are largely in the same range. They all are also showing a slight increase in vote shares for the Congress. But they are also showing that that entire aggressive campaign did not make enough of a dent.
Let's wait. I heard one of the pollster in today's one of the channels. He said, when I arrive at the figures, everybody follows me. This whole business of, the sheeps in the same, this kind of thing has not impressed me. Because you see, when I say the silence of anger, anger is never silenced, suppressed. Fear psychosis. People won't speak to an outsider, unknown person who he voted for. And especially the Gujarati is very careful. He does not want to be seen on the wrong side of Sahib. They have seen it. So the point is, I would not put my money on this and say, well, this exit poll is correct. It's going to be a very close fight. And you will see the numbers. And I think those who amended their figures came down to figures subsequently will establish that they will do another poll and say, well, we were anticipating it. This business, now there is somebody who told me when I walked into a channel, the Satta market says Congress. I don't believe in the Satta market, but this kind of debate leads nowhere. So I think there is a trend which they all want to stand by.
All right.
And I personally believe that these figures won't,
Okay. So we're also welcoming Sanjay Pugalia to the conversation. Sanjay ji, expectedly, the Congress spokesperson Tom Vadakkan says that, don't go by exit polls, and I agree with him, they're not the final results. But what is the big sign for the Congress? Because for them to even be considered in a close fight in the state of Gujarat, was seen as some kind of achievement.
Congress has shown some traction, Tamanna. They could have done better had they started earlier, had they planned better. They always believe that if public is naraz with the ruling party, we will get the vote. The kind of mega and super efficient electoral machine that Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah run, they have to fight with that kind of machine. Where Congress might be losing a big opportunity is the super efficient election management that these guys still don't know. They are not able to comprehend the way Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah manage their campaign. It is about getting your voter to the booth, the last voter to the booth to vote for you. That kind of management Congress could have done, should have done, if at all exit poll results are kind of the counting on the counting day, actual results are say in line with exit poll numbers, which is 100 plus, 105, 110, 115, then I would say that Congress had the great opportunity. It lost it because it is not as efficient as the rival party is.
Hilal, is that the key? At the end of the day, it comes down to booth management and what happens on the ground. Because if you see the voter turnouts in both phases, it was slightly lower than 2012, at about 68, 69 odd percent in phase 1 and phase 2 versus 70 plus percent in the last election. And is that where the slip may have come from?
Interesting points which coming out from voter turnout. I don't think that the voter turnout is as bad as when we compare it with earlier elections, but because if you look at the electioneering process, it was full of enthusiasm, and this enthusiasm, is reflected in voter turnout. So that's one thing. But at the same time, I agree with Sanjay ji that there is a mechanism, there is an institutional mechanism of the BJP which played a very significant role in encouraging those committed voters who are actually going to vote for the BJP to bring to the polling station, and that played a significant role. But I at the same time would like to underline the fact that if we believe that these indications are going to complete a comprehensive.
Okay, I seem to have lost Hilal's line there, but we'll try and get him back for that important point that he was making. I want to welcome Narendra, Taneja, the BJP spokesperson on the show now. Mr. Taneja, welcome. Exit polls are showing that you will retain Gujarat, but the bar has been set higher, not by anyone else, but by your own party. The highest, most generous poll gives you 135 seats, but your internal target, which was made public, was 150 seats.
Well, that's the target we had in mind, and we worked for 150. And I will say that, let's wait for a few more days, and on the 18th we will know. We should be getting close to 150.
Would 110 to 115 number be seen as some sort of message for the BJP from the electorate? Or maybe a sub 110 number would be seen that you have, yes, you have formed the government, but the voters are giving you a message?
Well, Tamanna, that's not how politics works. I mean, the thing is that, we are forming the government. It will be our government with a comfortable majority. And in any case, it's a big thumbs up to our work of the last 22 years, to our policies, to the direction, and to all that BJP stands for. So that's the thumbs up. But in terms of whether we get 150 or 149 or 120 and all that, that's we will know on Monday. But as I said, that we are pretty confident that we are going to get very close to what we said. And, if you look at the trends also coming out of the surveys, different surveys, that's what basically they indicate. But at the same time, Tamanna, we did our own survey as well, and we are pretty confident we'll get it. But The most important thing is that whether we are getting the mandate from the people to continue to govern the state of Gujarat, that's is very clear from all the surveys. And we will basically, our commitment to the people of Gujarat is what it is. And it's a big thumbs up to our policies, big thumbs up to the work that we have done so far, and very, very big thumbs up to the direction that we have set as far as Gujarat is concerned.
All right, let me go to Sanjay Pugalia, who definitely knows how politics works. I may not, but Sanjay ji, 110, sub 110 seat for the BJP would mean that they have comfortably formed the government. No doubt about it. But would it be looked like a thumping majority in the context of Gujarat and in the context of the bar they have set for themselves?
Look, if we talk in terms of strict numbers, they won 115 seats in 2012, is that right? So if they get little more than that, 1 or 2 seats more than that, 1 or 2 seats less than that, then one would consider the result to be at par. जैसा पिछले चुनाव में था वैसा ही हो गया. But if the loss of seats are more than 5 or 10, then it will be seen as a negative message coming out of Gujarat. If the vote share shrinks between the two parties from 10% gap to say 5-6%, then 3 or 4% loss. Compare assembly to assembly election. If you compare 2014 Lok Sabha election, then the fall for BJP will be steep, very, very steep. So it has to be measured only on one criteria, which is the vote share loss significant? Is the loss of number of seats significant? What would be that significant mean? It will depend on your and my or others' bias. But I would say if it is 110, it is a palatable, digestible victory. If it is in the range of 100, then it is a negative mandate for BJP, and hard questions will be asked, not only by the people and critics and media and the opposition, but within the family.
You know, it's interesting you talk about vote shares, because the BJP vote shares in Gujarat in 2012 were 48.6%, 60% in 2014, and most pollsters have predicted between 47% to 49% for the BJP in 2017, while for the Congress, Tom Vadakkan, number of pollsters have predicted a slight increase in your vote shares. Is the end game for the Congress in Gujarat to make its presence felt? Let me put it this way. Is sort of the parameter not the same as perhaps forming a government, and now that the campaigning is over and the last vote has been cast, maybe you can share this with us. Is the purpose to say that yes, we're here, we're still in the race?
Well, I still consider ourselves in the race, because these are exit polls and early times to predict anything. But yes, we are in the race with the people. We have transformed how Gujarat looked at the Indian National Congress. We have been able to put up a platform. We are speaking the people's language. What our narrative is essentially is built on the basis of what we heard. And Rahulji has been talking to people. His inputs are based on what the people have been telling him. His narrative is based not on an attempt to talk about religion, talk about variety of other reasons. He has been very, very focused. He's been talking about development. He's asking where has it happened. He's asked 14 questions which have no answers. Then there is this bullet train which came into the picture. The bullet train does not have an MOU signed even, and yes, it was said as a great achievement. Then they ride the seaplane, a single engine one, defying the airlines rules. All the theatre was there. But people of Gujarat are intelligent. They may be silent, and that is why perhaps the exit poll shows figures as it is showing. But let me tell you something, the last word has not been said. The Indian National Congress will watch the 18th, how we stand, where we stand, and how BJP stands. That will be the final say on what
No,
will be the
absolutely.
outcome
There's no
and
doubt
what
that the
we
last
think
word is
of our performances.
The last word is far from having been said, but I've got Hilal back. Hilal, and you were making an important point about vote percentages, and that will be key because you saw pre-poll surveys showing a consistent rise in the vote shares of the Congress, but all of those surveys ended at the last week, after which the Prime Minister's campaign took over, where perhaps the most excitement or aggression was seen from the BJP. Do you think that could have been a turning point in this election?
As I said that, whatever evidences we have now, these are simply indications. So to make a larger point only on the basis of these indications would be wrong. But at the same time, as I said earlier, that the picture is going to be very clear. In terms of vote share, if you compare the vote share, as you also pointed out in your initial remarks, that there is slight difference between the vote share, which is going to be very significant for the BJP. So if we evaluate BJP's performance in terms of vote share, it is certainly going to be a big question on the ability of Prime Minister himself, because he was the most important person in the electioneering process. That's one. The second point about the changes, if you look at all the three trackers of CSDA surveys, you realize that Congress gradually picked up the momentum, and it did quite well when the last November tracker happened. And finally, our CSD's prediction was that in any case, Congress is going to get around 43% vote share. Now, 43% is a very significant number in terms of vote share. We don't know how much that will eventually be when the result would come. But certainly, as I said in my initial remarks, that Congress's performance should not be underestimated. That said, at the same time, we also have to look at the possibility of a counter narrative. I don't think that Congress actually tried to produce a counter narrative in this election. They tried to do what actually BJP has been doing for a long time. From temple visit to make fun of Vikas is something which is negative. But what is interesting is, when you say Vikas, you also have to tell the people that these are the meanings which you are going to attach with the concept of Vikas, which I don't think we find in Congress's election campaign.
I think Tom Vadakkan should comment on that because if one were to surmise what this campaign was about, it was a few clever memes, no doubt about it, a more charged Rahul Gandhi, a lot of temple visits, and no clarity really on what your version of Vikas is.
Well, we asked them 22 years is heavy time. And we asked them simply 4 questions. The question was, what have you done? What have you done on healthcare? What are you doing about education, where it's become so costly? What are you doing about GST? How's business? I mean, we asked them simple questions. What we got with this bullet train, there was no MOU signed, there was this aircraft landing. I mean, that's okay. But tell us. We asked questions. We were only reflecting the voice of the people. Our narrative was based on what people were saying and telling us. And that was the basis on which Rahulji based his campaign, because people were angry. And if that anger is not visible, that's a very strange thing. I wouldn't build my castle on the basis of exit poll, the vote percentage. I will like to have a reality check, and I'll make a comment only on the basis of actual figures delivered on the basis of vote percentage. It's too early days to build my castle and say, well, everything is honky-dory based on an exit poll percentage. It all depends on what is the number of members they interviewed and all that. So we don't have a clue. There's a whole bunch of people saying something. And on the 18th morning, if it all gets turned down, well, we'll be sitting in a very embarrassing situation at that time. I'm ready to believe what the mandate is and to accept it. But yes, I will base it on facts, not built on exit
Okay.
poll vote percentages. Vote percentage will speak in volumes
Seldom do
when it
politicians
really comes
like
out.
exit polls unless they're sharply in their favor. I have Yogendra Yadav with me, President of the Swaraj India. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Mr. Yadav. I was very keen to speak with you this evening because of two sets of predictions you made over the last 48 hours via your Twitter handle, where yesterday you spoke about the Congress possibly winning Gujarat, and today post the exit polls you have modified that. Would you set store quite a bit by what the exit polls have said, considering 7 of them have shown pretty much the same trend direction?
Since I used to do exit polls and surveys, I obviously take them very seriously. I think the time for preaching and teaching is over. Time for learning has begun. The exit polls, all of them are going in the same direction, and there's something clearly to learn. I had yesterday made a broad projection, which was drawn upon 2 surveys, one done by CSDS for ABP, the other done for Times Now. And my simple deduction was that since both of them show a dramatic decline between October and November, I see no reason why the decline will not continue. And therefore, I thought the obvious conclusion is that BJP is headed for a defeat. Now, that's not what the exit polls are showing, and clearly, so it's not just modifying. I think I need to learn, and we need to admit the mistake in analysis and see where it may have happened. So one thing is quite clear, BJP is ahead. How much, we still don't know. All the exit polls give slightly different figures, between 5% to 11 percentage points. Even 5 would be enough to give them a majority, so they clearly seem to be headed for a majority, but we don't know how much. And the second thing we do not yet know is exactly where, whether the rural-urban distinction is of a kind that people like me expected it to be. Because I had clearly said that in urban areas, BJP is winning, is there to stay. It's in rural areas that it can face a rout. That does not seem to have happened, and I'd like to understand that a little more as to how in Saurashtra, in North Gujarat, places like this in rural areas, BJP has not done as poorly as people like me thought it would.
Okay.
But that is something we would know only if we have hard figures there.
Absolutely. Just one point, Mr. Yadav, and I want you to respond to a comment that Sanjay Pugalia made on the show a little while earlier, where he said that a sub-100 or 100 to 110 seat mark for the BJP would still be looked at as a very sharp message from the voters, considering they have they got 117 seats last time. Prime Minister Modi made a very aggressive pitch in the last week, as well as the fact that they've set a 150 seat bar for themselves.
Psychologically, if the BJP gets anything above 125, 130, they would, rightly so, celebrate it as a big victory. And of course, if they manage to touch 140, 150, which looks unlikely at this stage, that would of course be a very, very positive message for them. And anything which is below 115, closer to 100, or even below that, would psychologically be seen as something that puts the BJP down. I don't look at seats so much. I look at vote percentages. BJP over the last 20 years or so has maintained a lead of about 10 percentage points. If that is cut down to something like 5 to 6, that's a very significant message in view of the fact that in 2014 Lok Sabha election, BJP has raised that lead to something like 30%. So that clearly would be a message. But it also, therefore, it depends on what exactly is the number of seats, which would be noticed by everyone. But vote share, which should be looked at more closely by analysts. The real issue, I think, is this. There was clearly unease, dissatisfaction, and almost anger. The question I would like to understand much better on the 18th is, why is it that it does not translate into votes for the Congress party? Or is it that there was no anger or unease? Those are things that we really need to understand, and that's why I would still wait for 18th, not to get the broad result, but to get the exact pattern.
Absolutely, and we hope to speak to you on the 18th to understand what those numbers are saying. Yogendra Yadav, Thank you so much for that short conversation with us on the show this evening. And I want to come now to Narendra Taneja, because it's pretty clear now, Mr. Taneja, that for one reason or the other, the bar is set much higher for your party. Perhaps because Gujarat is the stronghold. You've been there 22 years. It's the Prime Minister's home state. And of course, you yourself want 150 seats. If there is that urban-rural divide, if there is a drop in vote shares, would the BJP then take cognizance? Because Gujarat is a highly urbanized state. The urban votes are expected to be with you. Even if the rural votes don't translate into any kind of big hit for your party, would your party still take cognizance of those questions of farmer distress, of joblessness, of higher education costs that have come up through this campaign?
Well, we are already addressing all those points, and one of the areas that's a top priority for us is the rural economy, and that's why we have said, in at the level of the Prime Minister, that we are working to make sure that the farmers' income is doubled by 2022. That's our focus. And that means also that we are taking technology, we are taking new business ideas into the rural households so that dependence on agriculture can be reduced, so that at the same time their household income can go up. So we are already addressing, as far as the divide is concerned, divide is there in the country as a whole. But this is when we say that we are focusing on rural economy, our focus is basically so that we can bridge this thing and the divide is reduced as fast as possible, so that we can, whole idea is to mainstream the entire rural economy and the people who live in the rural part of the country. And this is, look, we can have ideological differences, we can have other differences, like my friend from the Congress party, they're still stuck on the bullet train. I mean, look, in Gujarat, we were going around, we were talking about what we have done, we were talking about what we plan to do, and Congress was basically just reacting to what, and picking up things that people couldn't relate to. The bullet train, they've been attacking bullet train project, when most people want bullet train in Ahmedabad and most parts of Gujarat. They were talking about Gabbar Singh tax, forgetting this thing that, the state which is the biggest beneficiary of, context from technology platforms and all that, serving GST, are in Karnataka. They are in Karnataka, a Congress-ruled state. So Karnataka is the biggest beneficiary of that. And nobody is, people in Karnataka, Punjab, they are not out in the street against GST. So the question is that, probably, and on the top of it, you see, they completely abandoned their ideology. There was temple hawking, calling Prime Minister, names and all that. So the question is, what is the alternative? What is the kind of narrative you have for the people of Gujarat, in case you think that they are unhappy with that?
I have less than a minute, but I must give Tom Vadakkan an opportunity to respond in those last 30-40 seconds, only to be fair. Tom Vadakkan, one key takeaway will be, how do you craft an election narrative in a stronghold of the BJP, which will, I think, extend to 2019 as well? What would be the key lessons learned, very briefly?
Well, it takes 22 years for them to address the farmer distress. Today, institutions, educational institutions are all being privatized. We are not against privatization. We are only questioning the kind of fees the children have to pay. Students have to pay for higher education. What about health care? How many children died in the hospitals? And health care is beyond the reach of the common man. We are saying, set that in order. We are happy if you intend to do. Your intentions are always there, but point is, ground zero is seeing nothing of that kind. It's all very well, the GST, you have seen Surat, the kind of situation people had turned up out in the street. Well, I refuse to believe that anger has vanished or evaporated.
Well, like you said
the
several
reality
times,
is, I'll wait for the outcome.
We will as well. I'll have to end it there. What has happened in Surat, what has happened in various parts of Gujarat, was GST a big factor or not, will have to be seen on the 18th. I'll have to wrap it there. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. That's all the time we have on Prime Time Debate this evening, but the poll of polls do point to a clear win for the BJP in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, well, at least for now.